Hey, everybody, this is the Ads with the Twang podcast. I'm your host, Ben Blackman, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about the 3 Facebook ad mistakes that are costing you money. Here comes episode 123. The Ads with the Twang podcast is dedicated to helping you create simple, successful ads and use smart strategies to grow your online business. Get ready because I think you're going to love this. All right, welcome to episode 123, and let's just get right into it. So the first mistake, and listen, it's hard for me to say that this is the first mistake because this fluctuates back and forth. So Facebook, they want more control over your ads, right? They think that they know better, and a lot of times that they do. That is true. But when your ads aren't working, then you've kind of got to make sure that you're paying attention to what's working and what's not and try different things. So I'm going to talk to you about something that we used to do all the time back in the day, and then we kind of stopped doing it or didn't do it as much, and then we started doing it again, and it works. It's super effective. So this is about your targeting interests. So as you know, or maybe you don't know, it used to be that you could target like all these super specific, hyper niche things on Facebook, and that was great, right? But then Facebook decided to kind of homogenize everything, and now everything's in these big groups of things like, self-development or self-awareness or emotional intelligence or business. It's just very large, or entrepreneurship. These massive audiences. And so what's happened is now if you select several targeting audiences, that are very similar to who you need to target, or might be a good fit for whatever your offer is. Because the audiences are so big, Facebook can't find enough of the right people in any given one to keep your ads going right and to make them work. Now, people can dispute that, and they can say, "Oh, mine work fine," and blah blah blah. I have that too. But the thing is if your ads aren't working and you need to do something else, then stop beating your head against the wall, and this is something to try. So when you stack interest, you can confuse the algorithm to some extent. Now, I realize that sounds weird, but that's how it works. So what you might try, and of course it depends on what your offer is. Let's just say you're doing a challenge, a 5-day challenge, right? And it's free. So let's just say that's what you're doing, and you have like 5 interests in there, and you're spending $50 a day on it. Well, separate them out and do each of them at $10 a day, and see what you come up with, and see if you don't find one that way outperforms the rest, and then start. I hate to use the word scale, but start increasing the ad spend slowly on that one, and see what you come up with. That is probably going to help you. Now, there are other things that I'm going to talk about that kind of relate back to this, but that's where I would start. I'm going to give you a tip that this is a pro tip, and I don't know how many people use this, but I don't think I've ever shared this publicly before, but I'm going to tell you something that I do. And it's targeting by iOS device. So what I do is when I go in and you actually target by the device and the operating system. When I go into my placements, I then set it to target mobile only, and then I select iPhones, and then I select the most recent operating system. And why do I do that? Well, I have no proof of this. I just can tell you the numbers. So I think what happens is that, if people have older devices and they either can't update or haven't updated, then they obviously may not have the resources to do that. So people who have newer devices, newer updates, tend to have more resources. Is that always true? Not at all. Okay, it's just not. Is it likely to be true? Maybe. But the results are it works better. So why do I not target Android? Just because it hasn't worked as well. I've tried it separately, and it just doesn't work like it does when I do just iOS devices. I'm not an Apple snob, even though I do have an iPhone. Or maybe I am an Apple snob. I don't know. But either way, it does work. All right, so the next thing is let's talk about your copy. So this is the thing about that a lot of, I say, gurus are talking about is doing a lot of creative, just doing all these things creative to try to figure out. And yes, you do need to work on your creative, but your creative's not going to make a bit of difference if you're not getting it in front of the right people anyway. Okay, You have to make sure that your target. So that's why I came out with targeting first. But your creative is super important. Gone are the days where you could put out just about anything and it would convert. That's just not going to work. So if your copy sounds like a brochure, that's not a good. That's not good. Okay, don't do that. You want to make your copy sound friendly most of the time. I mean, it depends on what you're promoting to, but you want to make it sound more friendly and more like a post that would show up in their feed versus you're talking at them, about whatever it is you're trying to promote. So good, a lot of times it's good to start out with a question. That's a good thing. But I'll tell you one of the things that I really like to use is I'll start off with the words, "It's true, ... and then I'll go into it. And that's a good way to start. Now, I will say that it's not effective if you can't target your audience well. Of course, nothing is, right? And you don't have a good solid image on there, but that is a good intro because it gets people into the copy and down the slippery slope. Now, you can ask questions, you can call out your audience, you can do all those things, but I haven't found that to be quite as effective for the most part. Other things that are good intros are like, you say good news ... or bad news ... Bad news is usually better, but you can go either way, however you like to do it. So you just don't want it to sound like some corporate memo that nobody wants to read and is not going to read. I mean, that's the whole point. Okay, and so I see that. The other side to that is you don't want it to be hyper crazy copy. So I see a lot of copy out there from again, gurus and stuff, and some of it's good. I mean, some of it's really good. A lot of it, though, that I see is designed to be good when you're looking for praise from other copywriters. It doesn't necessarily mean it actually converts. Yeah. So, I'll see a really good ad, or I'm sorry, I'll see a really long ad with this long, hypey copy, and people are commenting on the copy, how great it is, blah, 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 but you don't know that it's converting versus it's just getting a bunch of people who are bro-ish marketers who are like, oh, that's great, bro, or whatever. This copy's so good, but you don't know that it's converting any more than, only the person that's running it knows if it's converting. So be cautious when you're looking at other people's copy. It's usually better to have copy that's more authentic, to the point, not beating around the bush, not fluffy, and that you can back up what you say. It doesn't have to be super hypey at all. That, in fact, super hypey might be one of the reasons why it's not working. All right, so now here's another thing, the last thing, actually number 3, that people miss when it comes to their Facebook ads is they have no follow-up, or their follow-up just stinks. And that, they don't have any emails, and I get it. Emails take a lot of time and stuff, and everybody wants that quick hit, quick win, stuff like that. But their email sequence is lacking, and if they do have one, it doesn't continue past a few of them. So remember, I have this thing called the 5-5-5 rule. And it's if somebody doesn't convert in the first 5 days, then they're not likely to convert for at least 5 weeks. If they don't convert from 5 weeks, then it's going to be at least 5 months. And that's just a trust building thing. That's all it is. I mean, it's just they just need to see more of you. And most of the people are going to fall into that category. They just need to trust you more and see more of you because, they're bombarded with crap. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And because they're having to be more picky, so they need to develop that trust, and it takes a longer period of time. Well, if you don't have your email follow-up, how are you going to do that? What's your plan? I mean, I ask my, people who subscribe to my Brutal Truth Marketing Digest, I say that all the time. I'm like, what's your plan? If you're not going to do this, that's cool, but what's your plan? And you better have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, then you have a plan to fail. I mean, that's the way it works. I don't know if somebody else said that, but you can quote me on that. If somebody else said it, you can quote it as them. I don't really care, but I like that. So anyway, just make sure that you have a follow-up sequence. And then the other thing is they don't make enough offers. People are afraid to make offers. They're afraid they're going to wear out their list, or I don't know what it is. It's not like you have to beat them over the head with your offer in every email. That's not what I'm talking about. You need to be providing value, but you need to make sure that you're making an offer, that they have to be reminded of that. Okay, and you can position it in different ways. You can put it in the PS, you can put it in other places. It doesn't have to be in their face all the time, but make your offers. Most people make way too few offers because of that, and they're just losing money. So that's really it that I had on those three things. If you fix any of those three, you're going to see a sharp increase in your ads. Like, you're going to do much better in your ads. If you do all three, wow, okay, you're on the cusp of really having something awesome. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I appreciate it. Don't forget, please subscribe wherever the subscribe thing is. I never know where that is. Just do it. Subscribe. If you're listening to this on podcast, please leave me a review, a nice review. If you're going to leave me a crappy review, just email me and tell me I'm a piece of crap or something. Something along those lines. All right, I'll catch y'all on episode 124. See ya. Thanks for listening to the Ads with the Twang podcast. If you get a second, jump on over to my YouTube channel, Marketing with the Twang, and subscribe. You'll get all kinds of no BS business building help there. I'll see you next time.